we'll do this first 5 minutes to introduce the mentoring club, especially to those who are new, who are coming in new and attending our session for the first time. And after that, I will turn over the floor to Roy. Our topic for tonight is the executive pitch, how to promote innovation inside your company. And at the end of the session, we will spend another 5 minutes for some announcements on the events, what's going on in the mentoring club so that you can participate as your time permits and also based on your interest to move forward with our community. So I'd like to let you know that we have presence in various social media channels that are shown here: LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. Almost all of our sessions are on YouTube. We're recording this and we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and also Clubhouse. We have a couple of Clubhouse rooms Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'll tell you more about that towards the end of the session. I just want to recognize all of the people who have been helping us run the mentoring club. Most of us, maybe 98% of us are volunteers. So they're really very dedicated, hardworking, and just committed to pushing forward the mission of mentoring and global mentoring for that matter. So thank you everyone for supporting the club. So now, who are we? For those of you who are not yet very familiar with the mentoring club, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So if you're in the US, that means it's a tax exempt organization. When you donate, you have some tax deductible benefits. And what do? We provide a mentoring community for aspiring and seasoned leaders, and we help working people anywhere in the world to find mentors to guide them to develop the skills they need in order to achieve their career and life goals. And we want mentees to fulfill meaningful work or to find meaningful work, because when they're doing meaningful work and when we are doing meaningful work, the leaders in us come out because we care about the results of our work. And so that eventually creates positive impact in the world. And ultimately, our dream is that as mentees become leaders, they will become mentors to others. And these are some of our mentees and some of our mentors. And in case you're curious about what is it that we do mentoring on as far as development skills are concerned, as of end of last year, this is our data where most of our mentees have expressed that they need help on, and you'll notice that a lot of them are around human relationship skills. There are some vertical areas, but most are human relationships, personal development skills. And so if you have a need for help in any of these areas, then you are in good company. Please join our community. And the last slide that I have about the mentoring club, which we always share with people so that you know what you're getting into, is that we have established our leadership core values within the organization. We espouse these leadership values because we think that when you have a balance of all of this, that you will be a happy and a successful leader. So the first three, integrity, honesty, commitment, is what make us trustworthy as individuals and professionals. And then the next two, vision and execution, we believe are what make us successful leader. And then the last three, humanity, contentment, and family, are the social grounding forces anchored on love that keep us happy. And that is the mentoring club. So if you have any questions, make sure you reach out to me, email me, and we can have our sessions offline. For tonight, we are honored to have Roy Terry present to us and educate us, train us more on how to do the executive pitch, how to promote innovation inside your company. And there he is. And I'll turn over the floor to you, Roy. I'll
Okay,
stop sharing.
thanks very much. Thanks for showing the younger Roy. I liked him. He's a pretty handsome guy a few years ago. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to ask the folks who are currently not sharing video that if it's possible, if they're comfortable to share video, because that will help me. That way I can kind of get a read of the room and who's looking puzzled or who's looking distracted or, you know, who's just actually just falling asleep. So it's really helpful to me if you can come on in and join us in the video. Makes a bigger room. In a professional speaking realm, you know, it's an axiom. The more people in the room, the more energy. So please join the room if you can. That would be fantastic. Well, I'm already 4 minutes behind on my handoff, so it's gonna be a little rush. We'll do fine. We are here. My claim, my belief from all evidence is that everyone on this call is here because they believe that trying to achieve things and be effective and, you know, grow in our careers and do good things in the world works better. You can make more progress and get more good things done if you have someone around who knows more than you. And I think, you know, that's the premise of mentoring. Naturally, knowing more is not the only thing. It would help if they're friendly and desire to help and that they can communicate effectively. So all those things are completely consistent with our project tonight, and there's more. So you didn't really see much about me, but I could share that I'm a communications coach, you know, in the business sense. I'm not a life coach. I am a coach for all sorts of folks who need to be make an impact, including not only the inside corporations, but also startup investor pitches, interview prep for, you know, for hiring, and customer pitches as well. So all these pitches are a little bit different. And my grounding, so to speak, in this field comes from training in an area called NLP that you may or may not have heard of, that was very popular in California. It was invented in Santa Cruz. And that involves the ability to listen very exquisitely to what is happening in other people's inner world. And if you do that a few times, what you realize is it's possible to facilitate other people growing and changing by having rapport with them, you know, and offering things. And there's a structure to it. And I have generalized, now that, you know, it's been 3 decades since then, I have generalized some of those principles into business purposes. So what you're seeing tonight is one example of how we can get more leverage and be more effective in a corporate pitch by not just having suggestions about, well, you need repair, you know, what's your main idea? Don't forget to open with humor, or, you know, so all these kind of tips. We can do better by creating a structure, and that's what we're going to do tonight. And in fact, we're going to recruit some intrepid explorers to go create something anew from scratch that'll be kind of fun and exciting, I think. And that's where we're driving for, because the point of today is the experience more so than the information. So we all like to collect information. In fact, you ever see a picture of like a hamster or a chipmunk out foraging and their cheeks are all like this, and they're just not even done yet? They're still stuffing more things in there. And that's a great strategy for them, for their survival strategy. It is not as great for humans when they use their cheeks to, you know, cache information, and then they go back to their burrow and bury it, and they never get around to it, using it. So tonight is about information, yes, but more importantly, experience. Okay, so you guys ready to go on board now? Comments so far? Getting myself clicked on so I can move. Here's our agenda, and it is a sketch. So what we know for sure is that we're going to kind of grasp this topic of, you know, what's an internal pitch, what's an executive pitch. We're going to look at some of the elements that are involved, the requirements or the necessary things to have in that pitch. And then we're actually go so far as to claim a sequence. We're going to prescribe a sequence of the topics that you should visit in an executive pitch. And then we're going to have our intrepid explorers go and make one. They're going to make one. It's going to be exciting. And we're going to hear it, and then we're going to debrief it all together as a team. So hold on to your hats. One person earlier was saying, oh, I'm more of the passive type. And I said, well, gee, sorry, this is not your night. Okay, to clear up what we're talking about here, here's a, I don't know, millennial workplace. I never had a workplace like this personally, but you could say, oh, corporate pitch. Yeah, we're just talking. We're just going to share them. We're just bouncing ideas. You could say we're spitballing. You know, we're doing a trial run. We're running it up the flagpole. And that would be pretty chill. And so, yeah, these folks are just kind of, you could do a pitch here. It's not the pitch we're going to practice tonight. So it's very, very useful to remember that informal pitching and formal pitching have some important differences. So this isn't it, much as we like these guys. But you may say, well, like, what about this? What about this wonderful thing? I love these. I don't know how old the guy in the background is, but he's more my age. So, oh, he's getting flattered. All these models, they're actually models, of course, are clapping and smiling. Nah, sorry, it's not going to be like that either. What are the kind of networks or dynamics that you're doing in a pitch and a corporate pitch? So I coach corporate, I coach startup, and startup pitches are actually easier because you're just going to pitch to strangers. However, when you're pitching inside the corporation, more likely than not, you're pitching, so that means you're not in charge. And the people who are listening are either your colleagues, your supervisors, or the big boss, and you know, all the folks in between. So the implication is, so please emotionally hear this, the implication is that you are telling people who are superior to you what to do because you're making a case that you have an idea that they haven't had yet, or that they don't have time to develop, et cetera, but that it's their best choice. So you're having friction already, even if people are friendly and so forth. Psychologically, it might be a little more like this. Now, these guys, and I apologize, it's a period picture, so there are no women in it, but they don't need you. They have a little time, you know, they'll listen. However, they need to hear important things really quickly because they're busy. So this is the essence, naturally, of executive communication overall. Seeing this psychological reality, whether you accept it completely or not, I hope will motivate you to really dig into this structure I'm going to present and try it out. And we're going to, you know, try it out live, obviously, tonight. Once again, I'm open to interruptions, questions, clarifications. And I know I talk kind of fast, and I apologize for that. So yeah, by all means, bring things up, and team can watch to see if they need my attention. So just to let you know, there is literature out there, mostly just articles. I don't think we have science. Being right for the moment, being prepared, and selling the boss on things, of course. Harvard Business Review is big. Even pitching during interview, Inc. magazine. So this is a tiny sample. So sometimes it's called managing upward. We're going to get you a real life experience of doing that tonight, I think. So I think you're going to like it.
Okay, Roy, I'm wondering if I could ask a question about the context of the scenario.
Yeah.
In that I've seen some scenarios where upper executives are, you know, they've basically posed a challenge, or they've deliberately said, we're interested in certain thoughts and ideas. I've seen that scenario.
Yeah.
I've also seen some internal innovator has what he or she thinks is a great idea, and they're basically walking the hallways and trying to get buy-in. So are you talking the first scenario or the second scenario?
Thank you. That's super. Yeah, that's a really important question. So the scenario that we're going to do tonight, and the general scenario this presentation is built on, is the notion that you have been invited to pitch.
Okay.
And possibly you're part of a task force.
That's a relevant context.
Yeah, and it's really, so if you're walking the halls, that would indicate an entirely different strategy, because you would be sampling opinion. You'd be, you know, trial balloon kind of things. Like, you know, you might just like at lunch say, hey, I wonder if anybody's have you ever heard anyone talking about blah, blah, blah option? So yeah, walking the halls is a precursor, would be a precursor, definitely. Good question. Thanks, John. So we have our little guy down there, and sadly my caption covers his chemistry set, but he's got a formula in the background. So there you go. Knowing what you're doing in advance is helpful. This is a list of the rhetorical things that you need to address, I think, in a corporate pitch. So it is not the formula itself, but it's the payload, so to speak, or the what you need to target to accomplish. So clarity is a huge deal, and it's not always easy at all. I don't know how many of you have ever been at a Toastmaster club and tried giving a speech, or maybe you practice pitching. Anyone here has done different kinds of pitching?
In my case, one of the problems I ran into is executives did open up the window for new pitches. I work with the team. The team are, I'll call them individual contributors, feet on the ground. They know the problems in the trenches. They don't know the problems at the executive ranks.
Yes.
So their point of view is all about the trenches. And I have to translate that into the point of view of the executive.
Gotcha. And that would present an obvious challenge from the standpoint of clarity, because they have their own language and their own sort of way of thinking through things. And if you're just talking about a smaller detail, they're going to be impatient probably. So you probably had to deal with that.
Well, there's impatience. There's the problems in the trenches are different than the problems in the boardrooms. There's that too. Right.
And so presumption behind this pitch is that it's relevant to the problems of the boardroom. You know, it's at their appropriate level. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Welcoming any more people who want to share their experience. So this is the word credible implies a couple of different things. So obviously, if you're not clear, then credibility doesn't matter. If they can't even understand you, they're just going to be like, next. I mean, they'll do it politely, probably. Clarity is key. So you need to practice clarity. You need to use short sentences. And then credibility becomes almost a litmus test for some executives. And you will find this in different articles, et cetera. You appear confident, you have some authority, you have command of the domain, et cetera. And some executives will just say, well, if the person doesn't have these various qualifications and they don't appear confident, they're not even going to think about the content. Because if the presenter isn't confident, for those executives, it's no check, it's next. So super important. And once again, this benefits from coaching, mentoring, and practice. Actionable. So best option now is another way of saying actionable. Many times in corporations, there's only room for 2 or 3 priorities at any one time. Everyone's time stressed. So if it's not something they can consider acting upon in the near future, and you don't give them a reason that it's urgent, then your pitch is going to be less effective. So, you know, we need to think of the reasons why whatever you're proposing matters, and the best payoff is to act now, not in 6 months. There's a question of ecology. You know, people say organizations are designed to prevent innovation, and there's a lot to be said for that viewpoint. Organizations are constructed to produce consistent results and predictable results, you know, and execute a mission and all that good stuff. And so if you want to introduce innovation, one of the immediate concerns is going to be, is this going to create any kind of disruption or chaos? Are we going to subtract resources from some other critical operation and then, you know, get clobbered, you know, have bad performance? So this is another task inside of the pitch, is to convey that this is going to work within the organization. It's cool, it's fine, right? We can handle it. All right, now we're address the realm of the enterprise, which is where the executives are. It's their job to oversee the enterprise itself, you know, at the largest scale. Is it sustainable? Does it pay back? Now, if you're writing a Hollywood, I'm going to make a little joke here. So if you're writing a unicorn startup bubble like Uber, and you've never made a profit in 2 years, maybe this is not as important, but in most companies, this really matters. Now, we're going to allocate you some budget. When is that going to pay off? How soon is it going to pay off? And will it continue to pay off in the future? Is this a good long-term decision? And finally, what makes a pitch different from a presentation? You're going to ask them to do something in a time frame. All right, comments? Has anyone seen a list similar to this before? See, I don't think you have, because I've never seen it, and I look up through this stuff all the time. So I'm hopeful that I'm giving you something that is somewhat unique and valuable. So these are the sort of grab bag of important things that need to be accomplished by the pitch. How the heck do we do that? Well, now we're starting into thinking about the components of the pitch. And I just grabbed the word billboard because I think it's really captures the essence of what you should start with and end with in any corporate, any executive pitches. Executives need to understand the bottom line. They need to know what's at stake. They need to know why they're even listening to you, because they're busy, right? They have a lot of stuff they could be doing. And so you need to come out and claim something really strong. You need to tell them it's important, tell them what the potential benefit is and why it'll work. And then, you know, go from there. But they need to hear really clear, what's at stake? Why am I listening to you? John, did you have an experience in this manner? Is this making sense to you?
If I could just go back to your previous slide, you listed these 5 bullets, and I wanted to throw in In some
Yeah.
cases, if this is a presentation that is solicited, I've seen scenarios where they give basically a template. Your third bullet, best option now. I've seen it happen where they say, give me a minimal option, a medium option, and a maximum option. And each one I want a return on investment. Yeah, and in many cases, it demands market projections.
Yes.
And market projections are very, very difficult for revolutionary ideas. It's a bit more easier for evolutionary.
Yeah, well, we know that is from the history of the Valley because, Steve Jobs, the genius, he also had a lot of flops. He had the Lisa, the Newton, he had all of the whole next thing. So absolutely, It's very, very problematic. So from a coaching point of view, my response is, yes, you can't prove it, but what is the most credible case? Make a supportable assumption and then have some data points that at least make it credible. Everybody knows it's a risk. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yes, you brought up some elaboration. So if one had more time or one had you were getting some more a template or guidance, they might say, yeah, give us option 1, 2, and 3. Depending on how great we feel, we may want to spend lower, or we may want to just go for the whole thing. So thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I do have a question. This is Arnold. So I know the topic for today is about executive pitching, but I wonder whether these principles also apply to a lesser, lesser, like informal type of environment. For example, I work in an IT environment, and most of the time, me and our team would talk about solutions. Which technology is better than the other. So I wonder, and you've been talking about executive, your boss, or your higher ups, but would this also apply to like your tech lead or your peers and all that?
My belief, thank you. My belief is that it does apply. I believe that all of these particular persuasion challenges apply just in a smaller scale, even in a team. Because if you're going to change a team process, for example, or the team norms or protocols, the way you collaborate, then naturally you only want to do it if it's going to be a long-term plus. Don't make choice B when choice A is better. So I do think they basically apply in scaled-down versions. You could even say, this could be in a nonprofit. It could be a Boy Scout troop. It could be your family. You wouldn't want to do PowerPoint, I don't think, but you'd want to have in mind kind of addressing all these different aspects. Fair enough? Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned about nonprofit because a lot of times I'm also involved in our own community, and I've seen a lot of instances where I have to sort of sell my idea.
Yeah.
But however, like you said, I don't necessarily have to create a formal PowerPoint presentation because most of the time they don't like PowerPoint. We just talk, emails and all that.
Right.
But in a meeting, we still have to come up with the idea and sort of sell. And I think I like the word you said is persuasive and to influence them, basically.
Right. Well, yeah, so there is a separate template I'm not going to be working with tonight that is for the informal pitch. And it involves much more kind of keeping the relationship going. And it has less sort of hard-edged analytic points or hard-edged data. It follows a somewhat similar path.
Okay.
Okay, other comments before we go to the kind of main show here? Yeah. Oh, I was wondering who might like to demo billboarding? Let's see if they even understand what I'm going for. Lyselle, does this make sense to you? If you were needed to billboard the mentoring club, say you got invited to like Silicon Valley Forum or some kind of pretty big persuasive local thing where a lot of high-tech CEOs, there's a lot of money in the room, basically. And you wanted to promote your organization and you wanted to do it in a bold fashion. What would you say in the first 2 or 3 sentences when you got to the front of the room and they're all listening, they're all waiting? What's she going to say?
The thing that I could think of right now is the ultimate vision that I have for the mentoring club is that as mentees become leaders, our dream is for them to become mentors to others. And that's how we continue developing leaders.
Okay, well, hold on. We might come back to that. I think that's I think it's a nice, dramatic, and touching. It wasn't the flavor I was going for from a corporate thing. Who else wants to give this a quick shot? Let's hear a billboard for some idea that you favor. It could be anything, personal, private, not politics.
I'll give it a go, Roy. I believe that using machine learning in our data strategy is critical to the success of our company and differentiating ourselves from our competitors.
I like it. Put that in more of my mind of billboard format.
Please.
You could say, our company faces a lot of challenges, but one of the key ways we can differentiate and advance above the competition is by incorporating AI into our processes. And we have validated this through some smaller examples. So did you notice I got kind of like, in your face a little? Would you be ever comfortable doing that?
It would take practice, but I think I could become comfortable doing that.
Yay, good. Okay. Because then they get a visceral experience of someone who is energized. And that's what we need. Executives need that. So cool. Thanks for helping me demo. All right, we're going to get close now to doing our exercise. We went here, didn't we? We get through this? Yeah, we went all through this. So you guys have seen it. So just a couple of quick side notes, things that we don't have time, unfortunately, to go into now. However, one of the tests, so to speak, and one of the things that John ran into with his team is that they were maybe not conversant in the domain that was relevant to the executives. So in other words, what are the major dynamics at the top of the company in the sense of priorities, challenges, competition, current initiatives that are underway, turbulence, so to speak, in the business environment? How can you talk in that kind of, like sometimes I call executive smarts? And this is, once again, takes practice, but it's essential that, you need to be able to speak their language. So some of the things that you could know about, besides the actual, what's the top level of the company concerns, you could be checking out quotes and comments of others. You could industry trends and metrics would be something to investigate. Best practices, trouble reports. Another thing that we at least should nod our head at, because we're going pretty quick tonight, is how relatable. So I chose a pretty dramatic picture here, I think. And what I think we're seeing here is a person who is not in rapport with the others. In fact, she may be one down from a power point of view. This is the opposite of what you can create with better skills. And that skill I want to talk about first off is rapport. I was on a date. This is a personal story, so I apologize, but it's not sensitive. I was on a date having lunch with another person and just getting to know them. And I remember just kind of unwinding a little bit, sit down, so the lunch gets served, and I'm saying, this is a nice break. It's been a stressful week. And what did the other person say? They said, would you like to try my soup? So this is an example of not being rapport. It's not matching. So I opened a topic and the other person chose to just change the subject instantly. But it got worse because a little while later, continuing just having casual conversation, what do you do? What's your interest? What's going on? I said, I'm really loving that Tour de France. I just love the Tour de France. I love all, all the ins and outs of bike racing. And the other person went, I tried watching that, but it was a lot like just bowling. I felt like I was just watching bowling. So once again, mismatch. And I have met, so I'm a communications coach. I meet people every week and I conduct meetings every week and I make, propositions. I have met people, and you may be one of them, doesn't mean you're bad, who learned to establish their authority and status by finding everything you can disagree with or finding the counterpoint to everything that's said. And this is not good, in executive levels, because there can be a lot of competing interests. Let's give an example. So say someone says, make it up with X's and Y's. You give your proposal, you get interrupted immediately. The executive says, yeah, we thought about that in the past. However, what we realized is that if we did that, X, Y, and Z would happen, and those would be disastrous. What do you say? You have two choices. You could be like the bowling person and say, no, I don't think so. We've investigated. We're pretty sure those won't happen. Or you could actually be skillful and say, yeah, those are big, X, Y, and Z are concerns for us too. And we appreciate you raising that. What we believe from our investigation is that we can monitor and see if X, Y, and Z start happening. And if they do, we have a strategy to control it and limit the negatives. So did you notice the difference between the versus the matching? Okay. Once again, no time. Facilitation, I'm going to just even give less time. Facilitation is another skill that's trained. I've spent several years developing. and it's rapport plus helping creativity. Okay, take a breath. Thank you for coming with me so far. We're through the lightning round, and we're now about to arrive at what is the heart of this session, which is the experiential part. And we need some intrepid volunteers, I'd say about 6 roughly, who are going to go away and create something. And I think we're going to create something fantastic. It's going to be very interesting and fun. And it involves significant social issues. It involves making a difference in the world, as well as invoking skillful planning and collaboration in this challenge. So let me set up the scenario for you. And please be thinking about how fun this could be cool to be in this group and come back to us and knock our socks off, because I think you might. Here's a scenario. It is in the future, not far, maybe just 2 or 3 years, 5 years. And current trends have been continuing. In other words, there are more heat waves, there's more drought, and there are more fires. And a few years ago, we used to just see the news about, oh, California, the West. But these days, now we're 3 years, 4 years in the future, fires are all across Canada. Even Alaska has a very significant fire problem. There are fires in Siberia. There are fires in Europe. There are even fires in Australia and Africa. And it is one of the most troubling things, trends. Lots of other things are going wrong, but the fires are really, really nasty. So you belong to a corporation here in Silicon Valley that has a huge amount of money. You can invest in, think of the different names. And something else that's also happened is corporations have become a little more responsive, because the money train of people lining up to give $1,000 for a new phone is over. And corporations are being held more accountable. So let's just say it's Google. Google has decided that they need to get in the game and be part of a player in society and making things better. And that they're going to take on the problem of these wildfires. Dear volunteers, you are on an elite team at Google. You have a budget of $500 million for the first 2 years with supplementals. And here's the tech part. Your mission is to strategize, basically make a proposal, a pitch, for how you're going to spend that $500 million and more using drones to help address the problem of wildfires. There are no limitations on the kinds of drones that you may use or what they might do. They could detect, they could fight, they could do all kinds of things. They could be autonomous, they could be piloted. And so what we want to hear, what we want to understand is your best shot as a team, using your imagination and technology, and furthermore, you are empowered to invent any plausible facts that are needed for your presentation. Because after all, it's a simulation. We're not going to do research. You can invent plausible facts and put them in, but no goofy facts. We're not going to have it. I don't want to hear about anti-gravity, etc. Okay, are people with me so far? Do you understand what I am? Got it, that's cool. Okay, just a few more things and then I'm going to launch you guys. You will have in the room someone called a sheriff. Chloe, raised hand. You want to speak?
Oh, no, I just want to pitch. So I don't know if.
Oh, you want to be on the team?
Yes.
This is cool. Would you like to be the presenter?
Oh, sure. I think it's a teamwork. So we pitch together.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was saying we're going to have 2 special roles on this team. So we're going for like 6 people. We already got Chloe on board. She's going to be the presenter, or possibly when you're in the room, you guys can adjust it if you want and share.
Sure.
We need another person because it's not my first rodeo. Oh my God, 2 more participants raising hands. John with the parrot, John with the bird. Are you tracking these people?
Yes.
Kent? Put them in a breakout soon. Okay. This group is going to have someone I'm going to call the sheriff. Kent, I see you raise your thumb. You might want to be a participant, correct? Would you also consider being the sheriff? Okay, so the sheriff is the person who enforces rules. And by the way, for everyone else, the sheriff is not to be disobeyed. The sheriff is there for your benefit and guidance. And here is your main mission, Kent. It is to make sure that when this pitch is developed, and I realize it's going to be fragmentary, it's going to be off the cuff, it may be, may even have a few inconsistencies in it. It's okay. You need to kind of go with what comes out because you guys are all technically savvy. But Kent, you're going to make sure that every single bullet on that structure list has at least 1 sentence under it. Are you up for that, Kent? Love it. I love it. A thumbs up works for me. Okay, cool. So how many folks have volunteered so far? We're going for 6 roughly. I have 3 participants with raised hands right now.
I'll be another volunteer.
Okay, lovely. Well, how do you say your name, sir?
Shariar, if you
Shariar. Lovely.
H, yes.
Like somebody with a little gray in their hair. That's cool. Okay. So what we're going for is a collaborative, quick, not exactly a brainstorm, but a like assembling a credible structure, a credible set of content according to the way that what the sheriff says, that's Kent, in a minimal time, and being able to deliver it with verve, including billboarding in the front. You need something strong, a strong claim at the front. And you're going to be presenting naturally to a mixture of C-suite and board of directors at Google. So remember, the main scope is already outlined. It's drones against fires, but use your imagination for every other aspect. You got $500 million, and we want the best. We want the best option now. So, John, where is our inventory now for folks? How many do we have who volunteered?
We have 4 currently, still waiting for 2.
We need 2 more. Who else wants to be in the game?
Oh, Sarah.
Cool. Excellent. Glad to have you in there, Sarah. So for anyone who hasn't gone, why would you not want to go in there? Let's try to make it less scary.
In my case, I don't want to bias the conversation. So
Okay, John, how about, since we need to get going quick, how about under these terms, you join the group under these terms. You only participate if you feel they're stuck and you can help move things. How's that sound?
I'll remove the bottlenecks. Yes.
There you go. There you go. You're designated
bottleneck remover.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're done. I think we're done recruiting, but anyone can raise their hand and get into there now. But I'm going to ask John to start putting folks into the breakout room. And Kent, remember, you're the sheriff and you must be obeyed. And make sure they do it, Kent. Every single item needs at least a sentence. And John Benedict will be in the group too, sharing the list, the graphic, and he will be announcing the times. So I say you guys are launched. In the absence of objections, I say you guys are launched and we're going to see you on the other side in 10 minutes. These fires are really, really bad. It's a crisis. We need the best ideas, so go for it. Okay, so people are disappearing. I think that means they're all in there. Is there anyone wanting to go in who's still stuck out here with the oldies, with the fogies? Okay, all right. So what do? We have 10 minutes. We can do a few things. Number one is talk about our roles. So I said all of us are directors or in the C-suite of the company. Are you guys comfortable with that? Feels natural. Any parent can do this. We all know how to correct things. However, I'll request that when you do play this role, that you infuse it with the spirit of mentoring and coaching. Because naturally, the point of this exercise is it's not to make this pitch. It's not to remember Roy's bullets. What it is, I hope, is that some of the folks on tonight will have a different kind of insight or sense of possibility or leverage when they need to do a pitch of some kind. And they realize that if they lay out these kind of tasks and steps, that they can get powerful. Power is available. So I'm just open to discussion questions right now. We can talk about rapport or facilitation or any of the aspects for the folks who are still here. Or you can talk about what are you looking for in this pitch? So speak up.
So I guess we're open for questions.
I wouldn't mind responding to your question, Roy, of what I would like to see as an executive in the pitch.
Please. So
one of the things I would love to see is a clear understanding of what the problem is they're trying to solve. So right. the fires are there, but
I left that out.
I saw that you left that out. So, I mean, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if they come back with, is it preventative or is it when the crisis is there?
I was rushing naturally, so I may have left this out. My intention was to leave all avenues and strategies open.
Yeah,
you know, so prevention, intervention, coordination, information gathering.
And obviously the other thing that will be very interesting to see is how they simplify some of the concepts to make it very practical. And as you say, that it doesn't bring in additional load on the organization.
Right. You know what? I made that problem pretty easy for them in a sense because I said they had $500 million over 2 years. So they should be able to do some robust things.
Yeah, that's true. Hiring as well, but
I
it
wanted
will
them
take
to
a
have a free scope of imagination. That's why I did that.
Hi, yeah, this is Vivek. I would like to hear how they balance between revenue generation, right, from this sort of climate change and fires, and
Yeah.
and at the same time doing good for the society and for the environment.
Right. Yeah. And that's another one that I maybe should have gone there and just said, okay, we expect positive revenue within 5 years or something. I thought I gave them a big handful already, but you're right. To be true to a corporate pitch, that should have been in the problem statement. So I'm sorry about that. We'll see what they do.
Yeah.
But because they still have to honor that bullet. So, they may reinterpret it or slant it, but it's still in there. How does this pay back? They might say it pays back in terms of, that old accounting thing, goodwill, or follow-on agreements, or, that kind of thing. They might do that. What's your idea?
So do you think corporates need to have monetization strategies beforehand, or do you think when I'm thinking like if I wear C-suite executive hat, personally, I would want to see, I'm okay delaying monetization strategy. I mean, if we have plenty of resources, let's say 500 million is not a whole lot for the company, but I would be willing to say, all right, let's do something good, right? And we will figure out monetization strategy later, because not having that plan initially, I don't know if I'll become a good executive or not having this mindset though.
Well, no, to my thinking, you're right in the ballpark of what would be the main concerns for a typical initiative. So I decided I wanted to make one that was kind of, in a sense, bigger than life, but it isn't. Kind of dramatize it, add some energy. Another thing you could say is, when corporations support causes that contribute to stability and well-being of their customer base, pretty easy to argue, well, if people are falling into poverty or societal structures are falling apart, how is that going to create a stable marketplace where our business can thrive? There's those bigger ways of justifying.
Because sometimes I think like how a lot of companies, and not big corporates, but especially small ones, they start with something and then they do not have any monetization strategy. They keep keep raising money or something and then keep building their products, and later they figure out. I mean, there are plenty of examples like that. Few that are off the top come to my mind are like Facebook, Twitter, all these like social, especially
Well,
like
right. So that's eyeballs. It's the quest for eyeballs. So yeah, if you can get the requisite number of eyeballs, you can monetize it later.
Right.
Very common, as a pitch coach, this is a really common thing, Silicon Valley. I mean, the old joke, how can you sell, blah, 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 your apples at below cost? So, well, we make it up in volume. So it's kind of a new version of that old joke, I think. So we talked about what we might like to see or what the challenges are. Anyone want to comment on the structure and their experience with it, or maybe they're skeptical. Maybe you think it's missing something.
Well, I like to keep a bit of an open mind there to see, as I say, what they come up with, and because a lot of that will depend on what problem they think they're solving, if it's preventative or hang on, the crisis is hitting and we're going to help douse these fires as they maybe start happening. So the structures will really depend on, I think, where they're going with the problem. And it would be interesting to see what type of team they would be pulling to the table, or how they, again, because if this is a spin-off of the corporation to do part of say an ESG strategy.
Sorry, ESG?
Environment, social and governance, that's now the latest buzzword with a lot of corporation. So a lot of companies are now looking at that type of strategy, and obviously I think climate is one of the things, or environment is one of the things. So it will be interesting to see where they go with that. How they involve the rest of the company within that philosophy, or is this a plan to be a spin-off?
Yeah, it would be probably sound fairly wise if they were to say, well, we're going to participate in the formation of an extra governmental entity or some kind of international consortium, And we're going to surround ourselves with, collaborative groups that are doing complementary things. I'll tell you my suspicion, and that doesn't mean it doesn't mean it'll happen, and it doesn't mean it won't be very valuable, but it sometimes happens in these kinds of groups that the, one or two dominant ideas gets out there, and then it just kind of colors everything. And so what you see is a fairly limited, but that can be part of if that happens, that's part of the debrief. Of how did you guys share ideas? Our travelers are returning. They look okay. I don't see any injuries, so that's good. So, when you guys are all clicked back in, we're going to have your designated presenter. Let me check in with the sheriff. Kent, did you have a well-behaved group, or what happened?
They were well-behaved, but drifted off topic a little bit, and trying to steer back to coming up with clear statements for the different bullet points. But there was a lot of great ideas, and if we had more time, I think we would have done wonderfully well as a group, but just in a short amount of time, you have to go right to the bullet points.
I am aware that this is somewhat of a circus, so thank you all for playing. It's what we can do. It's what we can fit within 50 minutes. So Chloe, do you have the notes or the mental thing that you can trip through?
Yeah, I have the notes. I will present.
So here was what they needed to do, and it's brutal, and they had a huge problem to work on. And so then my suggestion is that we allocate roughly 5 minutes to hearing that, but actually shorter would be good. You can start when ready.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chloe from Google. Today I'm here to present the solution for solve the problem of the wildfire globally. So as we know that wildfire is happening everywhere. 3 years ago, we only know that the California has the wildfire, but currently it's happening in Canada, in even Alaska. So Google has investigating and doing a lot of research using drones to solve this problem. We have some data here. We know that in the past 6 months, 10 million people lost home. 3 million people died because of the wildfire. So I think this is the time we need to take action. Google is the top company who use drone in many fields, and now we think it's the best time to use drone to monitoring and alerting the wildfire in the forest. So we can use the drone to detect the hotspot and give feedback to the control center, and we can take action based on the data. Besides the drone organization, Google has a lot of very good organization. For example, the weather. We have a lot of data about monitoring the pattern of the wildfire globally. So we believe with all the organization inside Google, we can solve the problem quickly. Once we have this solution, we will save not only money, like the people lost home, also save the people's life. This is, you cannot count by money, but we see that by investing us on this technology, we will at least get 4 times ROI back. This including the insurance cost, the government help the people, so we save money there. Most important is we save people's life, including the government doesn't need to hire more firefighters to control the fire. So based on all the evidence here, we believe our approach with drone will solve the problem, save the life and money.
Okay, was that a conclusion? You finished? Thank you. Quite well done. Much appreciated. Covered a lot of strong points. That was 3 minutes, 10 seconds. Because there was confusion over who was a leader, and you may not have been as prepared as you should have been or might have been, I'm going to ask if there's another team member who might want to add some things that Chloe might or might not have included. So, for example, I didn't hear anything about first implementation steps.
Oh, sure. So Google owns a fleet of delivery drones currently. We've discussed with their department and have found that it would be relatively inexpensive to retrofit cameras to those drones and implement thermal imaging. So we can do that as a test program, as a pilot, to make sure that our idea actually works without going too far down the money rabbit hole.
Cool. Is there more? That's a good point. And is there more? More
yes,
points?
actually, insurance companies and the federal governments, various federal governments, the United States, the Canadian, and actually the Russian federal government are losing so much money because people are losing their homes so quickly that they're willing to subsidize our efforts. And if it's proven successful, they've committed that they'll pay us, depending on the fire season, and it'll be a ratio, but up to $1 billion a year to mitigate these fire losses.
Okay, cool. Strong points. Any other team members wish to mention points we haven't yet visited or that we didn't treat strongly?
I wanted to add, I think Chloe mentioned this, but I think one of the main points that we talked about is the fact that Google's already known as being at the forefront of navigation, GPS mapping, and has been using our drones for that. It's also, been on the forefront of, predicting weather and developing on that team. So what we're talking about is just melding these two things together to try to predict weather patterns, map this, do thermal imaging to try to find hotspots, and predict where the fires might go and where the best resources can be sent in order to, really best utilize our resources.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, what you did, I think we could say, was you're pointing out the synergy, so to speak, or the leverage that the existing strengths point toward success and point toward potentially being the best effort ever, because nobody has Google's resources in those areas. So take a breath, appreciate yourself. How many people have heard the phrase, get out of your comfort zone? Did anybody get out of their comfort zone tonight? I hope so. And it's important to notice you survived. So that's a good skill in the future. And I want to also, we're going to debrief it a little bit. I just want to apologize because I claimed we would be on time and I blew it. We were not on time. We're a little over. And I hope you'll excuse that. And I hope that the kind of insights and observations that we maybe uncovered for each other tonight will compensate for that little bit of extra time we're spending. So I guess I'll check in with the team. What are your top level observations about how did this work? Was it super chaotic? Did having this list of items, what was that like? Was that make it harder, awkward?
I was mainly watching the thing, and I want to congratulate Kent for doing a great job as sheriff. But I think that what your list did is it focused results much faster than it would otherwise have happened. Without having your template to follow, it would have been taken a lot longer to put some kind of coherent message out.
So it lent things a specificity that accelerated capture. Yeah, good. Thank you. That's definitely part of the idea. I appreciate that you noticed that. Cool. Other things.
Something I noticed, this scenario that you set up, you were taking a very well-known company with lots of resources, and then an issue that isn't exactly in that company's domain. Google could say sorry, there's wildfires, whatever.
Yeah.
But it made me, the way this list was set up, definitely made me think of, if I'm pitching this to executives, I have to show why should they care about this? Why should we jump to this area that's not really in our domain? What business do we have getting in here? And it kind of made me have to think about, we have to show that we have the resources and that it's worth our while.
Aside from helping preserve your marketplace and win incredible loyalty, a well-loved company then. Right now, Google is Google, but I don't know if they stick in our heart as much as they could. So thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that point. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would like to send all the team members. We work together in 10 minutes. It's very short time limit, but I think we have a lot of evidence and brainstorming, even make up numbers. I think that's all good. Make this pitch more can convince the executives. So thank you so much, and for the trust, let me present.
Thank you guys for helping everyone on this session. I think move forward, kind of in your thinking. So I'm asking the folks who the big shots, who's on the board or in the C-suite, what feedback would you share with our intrepid team about things they could potentially improve and also just carry into their current corporate setting. What was shown?
If I pretend I'm in the C-suite, I would have asked questions about the synergy with the mapping software. This in that none of the teams spoke about. It was more like, hey, we've got the hardware and we've got thermal imaging and we know some maps, but I would argue it's your server side throwing everything together, giving detailed, definitive, specific maps to the forest fires. That is the power that stands above everything, and that lets Google leverage what Google does best. And we didn't really emphasize that. So if I was a C-suite person, I'd say, hey, you left a stone unturned. You could have added one more advantage and you didn't,
right.
But still, it was a good pitch.
I think the pitch flowed well enough, for a 10-minute exercise. I think it was, surprisingly coherent and had some power and oomph behind it. Sarah actually mentioned, of course, those points you just brought up, John. So they were obviously stimulated. They were in the brain, but they didn't make it out. I will highlight just my one comment as just from a pure coaching thing is that we did not get billboarding. Please note that, and please note that it makes a difference. You get people's attention when you say, so some potential opening on some future team that has more time might say, we have spent weeks looking into the whole phenomenon of fire detection, firefighting, fire suppression, etc. And what we realize is that the combined resources of Google can enable those efforts to be 2 or 3 times as effective. And all we need to do is build a system. So there's your billboarding thing, right? Your blunt claim. So I would encourage everyone to kind of entertain that of how you can incorporate that kind of boldness when it matters, when you've done the homework, so to speak, and you're ready to support it, then it's justified. Liesl, thank you so much for inviting me to be with your group. Thanks to everyone. And I know we lost some people, and it's not their fault, it's our fault, my fault, because I went too long. Yes, sir, go.
The bold claim that the team said was 10 million people at risk, and you don't think that was enough for billboarding?
Well, that was not the bold claim about results. That was a characterization of the problem. So what I didn't hear is that now is an opportunity at this moment with our resources where we are poised to make dramatic progress. So the claim is to be about the victorious results.
Back to your point about billboard. To me, a billboard, if I think of ones upon the highways that I drive past, if it has more than 20 characters, I've already driven past it.
Exactly.
So from my point of view, the billboard is 3 times more efficient forest firefighting, or something like that. That's
I do not disagree. Yeah, brevity is better. Apologize for going a bit over time, but I hope everyone got something really useful from tonight. And of course, we'll be sharing the deck and available for any follow-up consultations or questions. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, well, thank you, Roy. And so I'll just take, that's really awesome in terms of in 10 minutes, what the group delivered in terms of their pitch. So, and I learned a lot myself. So now I'm thinking about, okay, how can I better pitch the mentoring club to people? So especially when we're asking for funding, right? And so let me just maybe take 3 more minutes of your time, if that's okay. I will just go ahead and tell you a little bit more about events that we have coming up next. So in August, we will have Hong Nguyen Fong do a presentation. Are you seeing my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And he will be talking again further into the realm of improving our communication skills. His title is The Career Swiss Army Knife. So it's a curious title. Please go ahead and check it out. We still have to publish it on Eventbrite though. And then the big event or campaign that's happening right now is our Give Back Lead Forward virtual run, walk, bike. We still have up to August 8th. You can still register and you can still support our fundraiser. And these are some of the ways that you could do that. Register, as I mentioned, and encourage others to participate. So the mechanics is that you can walk, run, or bike anywhere you choose. And you can even upload your photos and your results on the platform that we're using. And you will see that on the registration. So you can also donate or create your own fundraiser and ask your friends to donate to your fundraiser. And of course, if you could amplify our posts on social media, that will allow more people to find out about us and the campaign. And the next Mentors and Leaders hike in August is going to be on August 14. So for those of you who are in the Bay Area, we're doing this at the Dish, in the Dish at Stanford. And on September 4th, we have a fun day of fishing and picnicking at the lake. This is another part of our fundraising efforts, our community services program, where one of our community members, in this case, Louis Lau and his friends, are going to provide their services for free to the Mentoring Club. And we're asking for signups on Eventbrite. All the donations through this event will be given to the Mentoring Club. So Louis and his friends are doing it for free. That's why we call it community services. They're donating their services, and whatever money we collect goes to the funds of the Mentoring Club. And
are they going to cook the fish?
I think they can, but I don't know if they want to clean it right there. I think it's the cleaning part that's
that's
a
easy.
little unattractive. Okay. And so I mentioned earlier during the intro Clubhouse, so we've created 2 events, Tuesdays 5 to 6, and then Thursdays 9 to 10 in the morning, so that we can cover different time zones. And we're always talking about mentoring, leadership development, skills that we need to become better leaders. And privately, we have yoga and Pilates. If you're interested, let me know, and I will give you the links to these events. And of course, we are the Mentoring Club. So if you think that you can benefit by becoming a mentee, please go ahead and connect with me. Likewise, becoming a mentor. And if you would like to volunteer, these are some of the positions that we are looking for. We could always use the extra help. And at the end of this session, and you may have received it already on Eventbrite, we are requesting for your gift of feedback. Please send us your feedback by responding to that survey, the Google Forms survey. And with that, thank you very much to every one of you who stayed on. And good evening. Enjoy the journey.
Great work.
Right.
Great work.